Okay, let's get started. Thank you for coming. Maybe some of you have come to the session on the basis of the assumption that you're going to find out that finally enterprise JavaScript is easy. That may be the case. Note though that on the slide the statement is in quotation marks, which is important in the context of this JavaScript ecosystem where each new library, each new technology, each new framework brings with it the promise of finally this is the final way, the best way, and then next week there is a new way to do things. And of course we all know about that, that aspect of the JavaScript ecosystem. On the one hand, it's what makes it so interesting, that it's so innovative. On the other hand, when you're creating business applications in finance or logistics or something business related, you want a stack of technologies that isn't going to disappear next week, or that isn't shaky and unstable, and where there is documentation, where there is a lot of support and community around it. So I'm going to be addressing both of these interpretations of the title in this session. So this is the abstract, so this is really what you're in for. The question, can you use JavaScript for real in enterprise applications? How enterprises are solving problems with this particular space, because there is investment in JavaScript in a variety of different enterprises, and I want to introduce you to those, to a number of different projects, and I'll focus specifically on a technology stack called JET, Oracle JET, which is a free and open source collection of libraries and components that you can use out of the box for free. It's a stack that Oracle uses itself based on open source libraries. It's not a completely new framework, it's a collection, it's a standardization around a number of libraries. And I want to do a few demos about that to give you a feel for what it entails. A bit about me, my Twitter handle. I used to work in Sun, and of course Sun is now part of Oracle. In the days that I was working for Sun Microsystems, I focused a lot on Java, and I'm still focused on Java. But I think, like most Java developers, you need to be kind of polyglot a bit. You need to know a couple of other languages. And so I've been looking a bit in the JavaScript ecosystem, also because within the organization that I work within Oracle, there's a lot of exploration and innovation going on in that area. Before I got into the whole JavaScript scene, I was very heavily involved, and still am actually in a way, in the Java Swing world. I may be the last person you'll find on the stage saying that Java Swing rocks. But it's true, and we know it. We know it. Yeah, we do. So when everything fits in a certain place, right? There's no silver bullet. There's no one technology that solves all problems. And there is certainly a subset of problems that can be solved very well on the Java desktop, and Java Swing and Java FX are really good solutions. And I've been involved in that ecosystem in particular because you can create those applications on top of NetBeans. So NetBeans is a generic framework for desktop applications. And NetBeans itself is now in Apache. So I'm not sure if everyone is aware of this, but NetBeans is in the Apache incubator. So like there's Apache Groovy, Apache Maven, there's going to be Apache NetBeans, strongly supported by Oracle, among many other organizations. A lot of developers from Oracle are involved in this project because Oracle itself is heavily invested in NetBeans. But the good thing about this is that now NetBeans isn't only open source, but also open governance. That's the difference with Apache. So now everyone can decide together on the roadmap on what features are in there. That's never been possible before. You could create bug reports, as you can for any other IDE as well. But you have no say over which bugs are fixed, over which features are integrated into a particular development environment. In the case of NetBeans, this is now completely different. You can join the mailing list, and you can say, well, what about this feature? And then we discuss it as a community, and we decide together whether or not we're going to work on that. So that's a really unique aspect of this development environment. But back to the topic, really. This is kind of what business applications look like nowadays. These are mobile apps. You can see in the first screenshot kind of Tesco time management application for the employees of Tesco to plan their to plan their work, and for the managers to see who's there and who's not there, and to move shifts around and things like that. Typical business scenario. Another business scenario in the next one shows a graph from a healthcare application. So kind of blood work results. In healthcare, that whole domain is also a business domain. And in the next one, you see a map, very typical component, very typical feature of a business application that you want to have a map, integration with map to show. In this case, it's an app for truck drivers in Antwerp, and they have a customer number. They fill in the customer number, and they can see where they have to go in the Antwerp harbor to deliver their goods. And in the final one, you see another app, but this time translated. So this is a Russian app. So typically, you can see some typical business requirements for mobile apps. Things like internationalization, graphs and charts, map integration. There are a number of typical requirements you have if you're going to create business applications in the mobile space. And similarly, if you're creating business applications for the desktop browser, when you're looking at the UI of those applications, there are, again, a number of typical generic requirements. And typically, these browser-based applications on the desktop browser need to look like dashboards. Very typical requirement for business applications. You want a dashboard-type appearance, meaning graphs and charts, and interesting ways of visualizing data. Not simply showing text, but you have data coming from somewhere, and you want to visualize that data in interesting and meaningful ways. So you need all kinds of graphs and charts and gauges and maps and these kinds of components. So just from the surface already, there are a number of requirements that you can kind of pick up that you need in the browser-oriented business domain. Now, in the world of Oracle, there are a number of technologies for that particular space. And there's ADF, and there's Apex, and there's Forms. And if you're not in the Oracle world, you'll have probably never heard of these things. Abstractions over JavaScript and JSF usage in ADF and drag and drop and all these kinds of things. And you might even say these are not even developer tools. These are kind of for non-code developers. And then outside of Oracle, there's a massive plethora of options in the JavaScript domain. And 1 week you learn Grunt, and then you're happy with your Grunt knowledge, and then everyone says yes, but Gulp is what you need to know, and then you learn Gulp for your build system, and then you're told Brunch is the new Gulp, And this whole churn of technologies is, a kind of a feature of the JavaScript ecosystem. Now, a number of organizations, a number of enterprises, some that you may never have expected, are trying to do something with this this churn of JavaScript solutions. Because on the one hand, there is this instability, and on the other hand, there's this realization also among large enterprises that something needs to be done with this ecosystem. And the main reason, I think, is because the browser is everywhere. If there's one platform that is really one, it's the browser. It's on every single device. On your mobile, tablet, desktop, laptop, whatever, you have a browser. And the language built into the browser is JavaScript. So why not at least explore the possibility of using JavaScript as the UI layer of business applications? And here I'm not talking about the backend. Backend Java is perfect for that. But here on the front end, at least explore the possibilities that JavaScript provides, as large enterprises are doing. So I was at a conference once, and there was the VP from PayPal did the keynote. And I thought, what does the VP from PayPal have to say to developers? And then it turns out PayPal has its own open source division, and they have developed over the years a stack on top of Node. So they took Node.js as a starting point, added Express to it, and added their own components on top of that, and then open sourced that whole stack at some point after years of internal development. And that is called Kraken.js. If you go to krakenjs.com, you will find this whole stack available and documented on everything, and this is what is being used inside PayPal. So it's a reliable stack to use in that sense. That is not something that will disappear tomorrow. And then the other day on Twitter, I suddenly got a message, Walmart Labs. So first of all, I wondered, Walmart Labs, okay, something you don't hear of a lot or ever. has released its own stack. So this is a stack based on React plus Node. So this is a combination used inside Walmart for their business apps. And they have open sourced that stack. So, there's a lot of these kind of less expected organizations, in addition to the IBMs and the Microsofts and the Oracles, who are not only using JavaScript, but who are now even packaging and releasing solutions in that space. So this is kind of new, and this is from the last 3 years or so. Maybe 5, 6 years ago, these different enterprises started exploring JavaScript internally, and only in the last 2, 3 years or so, these different solutions have come out of these internal explorations, because these different organizations also want to be part of the open source community. And it's really interesting. There is such a demand for developers that nowadays, if you as a developer go for an interview, you are in fact interviewing your future employer rather than the other way around. And if your potential future employer says to you, come and work for us, you'll be using internal proprietary technologies that you will not use anywhere outside of our organization, versus come and work for us and open source things, and we know that you will leave in about 2 or 3 years' time because that's what you're going to do. But everything that you've learned with us, you can take to your next job. That's a more attractive story. So these kinds of developments, I think, are driving these unexpected, the kind of Walmart, PayPal type organizations to not only work in the JavaScript ecosystem, not only use it internally, but also package up their solutions and provide that for general usage. And so Oracle is one of these organizations, and all of these organizations, I think what they have in common is that they are really focused on, obviously, the enterprise. They're all creating business-type applications, so as opposed to games or toys or something else. And possibly these are the kind of key enterprise requirements in this particular domain. So if you're creating business applications for the browser, browser on mobile, browser on desktop, or hybrid via Cordova, all of these kinds of JavaScript-oriented domains, what you're trying to respond to are these requirements. And the first one, of course, is the most challenging in this particular ecosystem, a stable, proven toolset. This is constant push and pull situation between following the latest hype. A few years ago it was Angular, and then the next year it was React, and then now it's Vue, apparently. Vue is the new React, which was the new Angular. And then Angular 3 will be there, which will be the new Vue, and this whole situation. So a stable, proven tool set as a cornerstone of a solution. And secondly, of course, responsive design, so that when a different device accesses the application, that the resolution of the device determines how the application looks. Accessibility, very important. Oracle applications, definitely. External screen readers and devices for people with different impairments and so on, when they're plugged in, should be able to access the components and the different parts of the application. Also, internationalization. For both of these, there are standards and specifications that large organizations always need to adhere to. And then in addition to these requirements, you also need to, as I've pointed out, you need to visualize large sets of data in interesting ways. You always have concerns about security. You have that somewhere on your list in the enterprise. Where possible, you want to optimize performance. You need to have hooks and ways of interacting with a particular stack to make things go faster. You want to conform to standards, and there's enough to choose from, but you want to choose the right ones to conform to. And also there's this aspect of business users. So these large enterprises, on the one hand, want to focus on code developers, but also on business users. So the people who are not code developers, people who nonetheless want to very quickly put a sales application together showing some sales results for a presentation or something, without asking the software developers to create a new application for them. And very important in this domain as well, documentation and support, because that's the last thing that a lot of these JavaScript solutions think about. And then when you have a problem, you try and contact the community around it, and there is no community around it. So then you contact the individual person who created this amazing library, and they're working on another project in the meantime, and they didn't document anything. That's kind of what happens. So in the case of Oracle, these are the winners, as it were, in terms of the libraries. So where Walmart went for React plus Node, and PayPal with a Node plus Express, the solution that Oracle has come out with is based on these libraries. So anyone doing JavaScript will have been using jQuery. jQuery UI as the basis of widgets, require.js as the module system, Knockout for data binding, and then Cordova as the mechanism to get the JavaScript onto a mobile device to generate the APK iOS file. So this is purely front-end. This is purely a front-end solution. Back-end could be anything. If you were to package these up together, let me take you to a page, you would have what is called Oracle Jet. So this is Oracle JavaScript extension toolkit, and it consists of these libraries, plus a few graphs and charts, plus internationalization solutions, plus accessibility. Plus it's free, it's open source, and Oracle itself is using it heavily. This is kind of the generic architecture of an application created on top of Oracle Jet, so Oracle JavaScript extension toolkit. You see on the server, it could be anything. You have some REST endpoints, some WebSocket, you have some potentially SOAP, whatever, some back-end service. And what Jet is there for is to provide a nice, solid architecture that interacts with that backend in a very stable and consistent manner, structured in a very specific way. Because again, also in JavaScript, there are no rules about how is your application structured. So in organizations, in the enterprise, IBM, Oracle, whatever, developers move from one organization to the other within that enterprise. What you don't want to have is that someone new in your organization has to spend 3 weeks understanding your application structure. You want to have one consistent application structure. So Jet provides a consistent way of structuring an application, the way that it is done inside Oracle. So you can benefit from that same structure yourself. So there is this backend, the server backend, REST WebSocket, to some wherever the data comes from. And then on the model, you have either jQuery. You could just use plain normal jQuery. There's no abstraction here. It's pure JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Or Jet comes with its own model layer as an alternative, which is especially useful if you're doing CRUD development, which is what you typically do in enterprise applications. So there's this thing called Jet Common Model, which is based on Backbone. So if you know OJ model and OJ collection from Backbone, that is the Jet Common Model. So the syntax and the concepts from Backbone are on that layer. And then the next layer, you have the data binding layer, and it's optional. Knockout is the official one that is there. If you want, you could take out that data binding layer and put something else in its place, because it is modular. But the one that Oracle officially supports and uses internally is Knockout. And then on the highest level, you have the Jet UI components based on top of jQuery UI with Hammer for touch on mobile devices, and SAS standard solution for style sheets, pre-processing. And on the side there, you see a routing system is built into this, and require.js is built into this for modularity. If you were to see an Oracle Jet application, it wouldn't be any different to an application that uses require.js with jQuery and with Knockout. It's just a bundling of those different solutions. So before the demo, these are the key points behind this particular solution, and it's comparable to, I'm sure, the other ones too. So first of all, this Oracle Jet concept, this architecture, this philosophy of handling the complexity of the JavaScript ecosystem is primarily focused on being adaptable to change. Now, anyone who has used Angular and moved from Angular X to Angular Y knows it means rewriting basically your application. And what we want to avoid by means of Jet is exactly that. So we want to have a architecture where you can take out the pieces and include back whatever you prefer. So in principle, you could take out Knockout and put in something else. So I've experimented with Vue, for example. I have an example of a Oracle Jet application using Vue for the data binding. So adaptable to change, very important in this changing ecosystem. Browser-based, so it's really for front-end only. Back-end is completely up to you. Modern in the sense of HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript. Heavily invested in Oracle, used throughout Oracle. All Oracle applications, all the front ends are going to migrate over time to this particular technology stack. So when that will be depends on the roadmap of each of the different products. But there's, Oracle Sales Cloud, Oracle HCM Cloud, Oracle whatever cloud, will all be using the same architecture. So in a sense, Oracle Jet is the architecture of the Oracle Cloud. Enterprise ready, by that, internationalization, accessibility, these business concerns. JavaScript, really, it's all about JavaScript. Open source, very important point, toolkit versus framework. So there's always this debate between taking a framework-based approach versus a library-based approach. And there's never a winner in that discussion. But in this particular discussion, I think in the JavaScript ecosystem, taking a library-based approach, a flexible and open client architecture approach is a wise one. And also a sales enabler. So it's free and open source. So the first times I was talking as a product manager of Oracle Jet to Oracle account directors about this. I explained the whole story to them, and they said to me, okay, so how much do we earn from this? And I said, nothing. And I said, why am I even talking to you? But then it turned out, I went with a couple of accounts to financial organizations and so on. And we were presenting the Oracle Cloud to a big group. And there was one product manager from one Oracle Cloud service, and there was another one from another Oracle Cloud service, and there was another one from another Oracle Cloud service. And the people in the room kind of like at some point, okay, great, but how do these things work together? It doesn't make any sense, these separate stories. And what Jet is there for, from Oracle's point of view, is to provide a user interface layer on top of these different cloud services. So one, whatever it is, produces a REST endpoint, which we feed into another cloud service via data entry into a UI created in Oracle Jet. So it's really a kind of user interface integration layer across those different Oracle Cloud services. So with that background, let's see what this actually means for real. Here I am on the command prompt. And so I'm going to go and make, it's a bit small, but I'll tell you what's there. Make their my apps. cd into my apps. And now I type ojet create London traffic analyzer. Something sorely needed, I believe, based on a brief look at my hotel window even. Okay, there. So now an application is being generated, and this utility, ojet, what is that? Well, on the Getting Started page, you will see that you can install via npm a command line tool called ojet cli. And I've done that, and when you have installed that, you can use that utility. So it's just an npm install, installs that command line interface on your system, and then you can just use it. So actually, it's generated everything while we were on that other page. So within less than a minute, you have the application. So now I go into that folder, London Traffic Analyzer, and then I do ojet serve. So it serves up the application, which means it does a build, sets up a staging place in my application, and opens the application into the browser. So now you can see along the top here, we have a basic infrastructure of an application, which is, when we switch to it, you can see now this is kind of mobile access to the application is responsive. So within 2 seconds, we have the architecture of a responsive application. Right. So what does this application look like? So let's open that into a completely random development environment. London traffic, oh wait, it's not there. It was in my apps. So where was that? Thought I'd created it here. Okay, here, there you go. My apps. London Traffic Analyzer. Because there's a package.json file, NetBeans knows this is a project, and so then it's able to open that as a project. So a little bit small on the side here, but we have a very strict application structure here. So let's first open this file. Okay. So you can see here I have something called dashboard HTML, and I have something called dashboard.js. And when I look at the application, look at this structure. Dashboard, incidents, customers, about, right? 4 tabs. Also, same 4 when I'm in the mobile responsive version. I go into the development environment, and I see that there is here a view models folder with exactly dashboard customers incidents about JavaScript, and here HTML, dashboard customers incidents about. So here you can see dashboard incidents, etc. So now I'll make it a change to dashboard. So I'll say here, hello, JAX London, and now I do a save. I click save. I look in the browser, and it says hello, JAX London. No need to refresh because the command line interface has a watcher built in, and any change you make to a file is automatically picked up, and automatically you see the change in the browser. So it's really focused on being productive. Okay, so that's our environment. Application structure is like that. So there's always JS view models, JS views. And you can change that, but this is the default convention over configuration. So very convenient inside Oracle. Someone goes to a different organization, and that structure is exactly the same in the new application that they work on. So these are our internal standards for creating a logical structure of a JavaScript application. Now, in addition, there is this folder web here, and in here you can see a long list of libraries. So here are the libraries, and there's no surprise here. It's Knockout, it's jQuery, it's Require. And if you were to want to add your own library into it, it wouldn't be hard. You would go in here, main.js file. So in a sense, what this is, this require block here, if you know require.js, this is the entry point into the application, kind of public static void main of require. And here you have these basically references to the modules that you want to load. But at the top here, you can list which libraries you would like to make use of. So if you have some other library, you will just list it here. Just add it in there, and it will be loaded into the application. It just uses require.js modularity. So, okay, that's all we need to know about the structure and the architecture. Now let's do something. Let's go to the next step. So we've got started. We've set up the command line interface. We've used the tool OJet to create the application. So now there is the cookbook. So on the home page you see get started, and there's a demo that we can look at, and then there is a cookbook. So cookbook. Cookbook implies recipes, right? Not just pictures. So here are all the different components. One of the components is a bar chart. So here's a bar chart. So we imagine we want to have a bar chart in this main area of the application, in the dashboard. So we look at this bar chart, and you can see there's this toolbar along the bottom here for switching between different views on that chart. So you might think, okay, we want the chart, but not the toolbar. So here is the HTML and the JavaScript defining that chart. So I go in here, and I see, okay, there's a tag here, OJ toolbar. That must be the toolbar. So I delete it here, and I press apply in the top right, and the toolbar disappears. So you can tweak the components live in the browser. And once you're happy with them, you can take the part that is useful to you, which is the chart here. So I take this, and I'm going to put it there. So here, I've just copied and pasted it. So there we have it. We can see that we have a key and a value. Key, value, key, value. You can see these are square braces. That means one-way binding. So there's also a possibility of two-way binding, which is expressed by means of curly braces. So here we have square brackets, a reference to orientation value. So we look in the JavaScript. Here are the properties. So those references in the HTML are defined in JavaScript and assumed to be in dashboard.js. So here we go. We've copied that in. And now you can see here's this define block. So in require.js, this is a simple define block. And there's no magic here at all. It's simply a define block. And here we have our references, basically our import statements. So we're using a chart, so we need to include OJ chart here. Copy this, paste this. And we look in the browser, and here's the chart. So, okay, so here, and the chart has some nice, kind of micro navigation features, We could go in here and change this chart from bar to pie, okay? Change it to pie, save it, and now we have a pie chart. But we would like our users to be able to select which kind of chart they would like to make use of. So we go back into this, into the cookbook, and we find There are controls, forms. There's a select component here. So I'll go into the select component, and here we see it. So you can see it's a drop down. So we don't want to have that content, so I'm going to tweak it directly in the cookbook. So I put here pi. I put bar, and line, and then delete that, and then I just say apply. Okay, so now it's working. You can see, so you can really just, it's really a JS fiddle for Oracle Jet components, really. So now I take that, select one, I copy that, and I go back into my dashboard. I paste that in there. Okay, and then I go into dashboard.js, and I take the one value. So you can see in the HTML, there is here a value, and the property name is val. And no surprise, it's defined on the JavaScript side here. So copy that, paste that there, stick it in there, and we say the default value is pi. So this is KO observable, this is knockout. So we're simply using knockout together with require. And then we need to also include a reference to our select box, just like we did for the chart, because these weren't loaded by default, those are loaded when we ask for them. We look in our page, and we see pi and bar, but they're not connected to the chart. So how do we connect them? Take a look here. You can see here value is val, and here the type of the pi is hard-coded. So I just take this. So these are curly braces, so this is two-way data binding. I take that, and I'll stick that there. I go into the page, and now I can switch between them. So, don't tweet this, I guess, and it's being recorded, but if you're going to make the mistake of doing JavaScript, do it like this. Basically, that's the kind of the message here. It's really a productive toolkit of different solutions for making sense of the JavaScript ecosystem. That's really what it's all about. So let's go to internationalization. What does that mean? So here we have an internationalized application, English, French, Czech, and you can see that when you look at this, this is a date time picker. So here it is in English, here it is in French. Now, and here it is in Czech. And as the developer of the application, I didn't have to translate that because there are translation bundles for all the labels of all the components. So all the datetime pickers and whatever, all the labels have been translated already. When I switch to Arabic, I wouldn't only expect there to be an Arabic calendar, but I would expect right-to-left support. And that's there too. Typical business requirement, which is quite hard to achieve. And it's 2 lines of JavaScript in this application to switch that right-to-left support over. So this is actually, the next part is, where is this going to? So take a look at this. So this is a cool, interesting looking widget, right? So I'm showing this to a colleague, and the colleague is creating a different application. And they have their own business objects, which they would like to render in the same way. So wouldn't it be nice if I could somehow export this widget and make it available for my colleague to use in their application? And the nice thing is, of course, there is the web component standard, W3C web component standard, implemented within Oracle Jet, such that, so we are in the library tab here, such that when I look in the structure of the application, part 21, okay, when we look in the structure of the application, we look in library JS and library HTML. So in library HTML, look here, there's this demo card. Very strange, because the HTML specification doesn't provide, obviously, a demo card custom element. So I must have somehow created this. If I look in library.js, you can see that a file here is being loaded. And here is the data. So we have 2 employees. And so you can see, well, probably not John Smith in this case, maybe Gail Smith. And so you can see here's the data, but it could be coming from some REST endpoint or whatever. But here we are referencing a loader.js. Now, where is that loader.js found? That loader.js is found in one folder. So in here, take a look. Here is the JavaScript file that defines that custom element using something based on top of Knockout. So OJ composite register demo card. This enabled me to use that custom tag demo card in my application, and those are the files listed above it that define that demo card, and they are found within the same folder. So I could zip up that folder, send it to my colleague. They could unzip it into their application, reference it in one of their modules, and then use that custom element. Or you could imagine this being the basis of a marketplace. These are our web components. So you can take this demo card, upload it to a marketplace and make it available. So I mentioned before as well the other Oracle products. So one of these is the Visual Builder Cloud Service. Well, this is an Oracle application created in the browser in Jet. This is actually a Jet application. And what it generates is a Jet application. This is for business developers, so not code developers who can drag and drop from this palette into this canvas. And then from here you can say run, and it deploys it to the Oracle Cloud. So it's a complete WYSIWYG solution in the cloud. But what you see here as well is exactly that same component that I have here. I have that component here. And why can I do that? Well, because I can upload that zip file. So there's a way to extend this Visual Builder Cloud Service environment. So here you can see extensions. And here you can see the demo card. Here are the sources. And those sources are not surprising. Those are the exact same sources that we have here in the development environment. So you can create these small web components, so based on the web component standard, upload them into Visual Builder Cloud Service. But now imagine that it's not a little demo card, as in this case, but imagine we've created a task list or a calendar or some higher, rougher feature like that. A task list, for example. You could then load that task list into Oracle Sales Cloud, Oracle HCM Cloud, Oracle whatever cloud. So all of the Oracle Cloud products are going to be extensible by means of this mechanism. So Jet is really a crucial part of Oracle's strategy. With this concept of web components, it goes further because you could have, you can see this is a memory game. So you can have a web component. So this whole game is a web component, but it's constructed out of other web components. So this is a card is one component, but the game is another component. So you can create this concept of nesting, of hierarchy in these structures. Okay, so I've actually covered really a lot. I've shown you in the demos how to get started. Very simple, this tool runs on the command line, sets up your application. You go to the cookbook, you copy from the cookbook, and you bind components together by means of these curly braces and square braces and so on. I showed also the internationalization, this concept of web components, and that is really the direction that throughout Oracle, everyone is moving. So there's a massive amount of developers in Oracle who are moving to use JavaScript on the front end. And NetBeans, by the way, is positioned as the official Oracle tool, internally at least, to be used for JavaScript. So there's going to be a massive increased adoption inside Oracle for NetBeans because of that connection. So everything works out, and everyone's happy there. If you look at the homepage, oraclejet.org, you will see, aside from the Get Started page, the cookbook, there's a section called Learn, and here all the tutorials are found. There's a MOOC you can take. It takes 3 weeks, and you learn everything. There's a theme builder as well, so for integrating style sheets. There's a support page here where you can see there's a forum. You can ask questions on the forum. FAQ, there's a blog. There's a developer guide, which is a big, thick PDF document with generic chapters like how do you design responsive applications? How do you do single-page application design? All these are questions that Oracle itself has had to figure out, and here's the result of all of that in that developer guide. There are extensions to Cordova because Cordova is heavily used, and Oracle is contributing to Cordova. It's contributing to Knockout because there were some performance issues in Knockout, and Oracle has contributed back to Knockout on that level. There's a success stories page, and this is where any organization that uses Jet, so a few of them are here already, can promote their Jet knowledge to their customers and clients and so on. And so you get a page where you can say what your organization does, and there's some screenshots of what you are doing with Jet as an organization, so that you can say, look, we have official recognition on the Oracle Jet site. I think those are the key points. A JET application for Oracle, or for probably anyone, is basically this very thin layer on top of a big stack underneath it. So it just provides this very specific, very single focused UI, which then can be used inside any browser. Because of this responsive design that's built in. Now, in the case of Oracle, there's different cloud products underneath, HCM Cloud, Sales Cloud, whatever. But that thin upper layer is JET. Yeah, I mentioned this point, which should give you a feeling that this is a secure stack to choose, because Oracle sales really depend on this. We've been in a number of situations where we've seen that when we talk about this, everyone in the room that is not wearing a tie, when we're at some customer, everyone in the room not wearing a tie kind of looks up like, wow, is Oracle doing open source? Are you using JavaScript? Are you doing all these cool things? And it really impresses the kind of technical layer in the room, while the people in the suit and tie, when they see the Visual Builder Cloud Service, drag and drop stuff, get excited there. So it's a win for everybody. Browser-based, browser is everywhere. Via JET, you can get your application to all those different devices. JavaScript, but this is purely a front-end story. Back-end could be anything, and Java is, of course, a perfect fit. Modern, but so in addition to HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript, there's also Oracle's style sheets. So there's l2ui.com, where you get, so that's a whole separate site. Where you get an explanation about all the style sheets used for the modern Oracle applications. So everyone's moving to the same style sheets, to the same architecture, and kind of coherent, consistent usage of front-end technologies. Toolkit, so this is really the nice thing. So in the code that I showed in this HTML, you couldn't see knockout actually. In the previous version of JET, so we're now at JET 4.0, but in the previous version, you would see, if you know knockout, you would see data bind attributes being used. Now, what we've done in the 4.0 release is we've created a slight abstraction so that you don't actually use knockout directly. So you don't see these data bind attributes. That's used under the hood, enabling us to, in time, potentially remove knockout and put something else in its place. Because there's this very thin layer above it, enabling you to use these square braces and curly braces and so on. And also these are right now OJ chart, OJ select. These are right now jQuery UI-based components, but they're going to become web components. So all of these, the whole component suite, is moving in the web component direction. Yes, so framework heavily focused on data visualizations, graphs and charts and things like that, focused on not locking you in to a particular architecture, focused on open source, focused on being enterprise ready, and yeah, Oracle is really the first customer for this stack. So here are some examples. Oracle Solaris dashboard is a JET application, and Oracle Data Visualization Cloud Service is a JET application. So what we do a lot is we go to companies and to organizations and schools to introduce these concepts, because we are really trying to build a community around this. So we have a YouTube and a Facebook and a Twitter and all those things. And if anyone here finds these concepts interesting and wants to introduce that into your organization, please let me know, because we'd love to come over, or via Skype call, WebEx or whatever. There are workshops. You can take a course at Oracle University. There are informal things we can set up as well. This is a really sensible way to work with JavaScript, and we want to kind of help you get started in that direction. So a question that is often asked is, how does this compare to Angular, React, and so on? I think that I've kind of said the main points already a number of times. So JET is all about being loosely structured, whereas when you compare it to Angular, it's much more a framework. And in Oracle, there's something called ADF, Application Development Framework, which is also a framework. And here, it's all about being loose and flexible and adaptable to change. Also, what you find is a lot of the other solutions out there don't provide their own data visualizations. So if you're using Angular, you need Ionic. You need something else in addition. Also for mobile, specifically for mobile, you need Angular plus Ionic. With JET, you just need JET. All the components work equally on mobile as on desktop browser. So it's focused on being integrated, it's focused on being open, and it's focused on giving you these data visualization components that run across devices. There's also theming built in. There's gesture support built in. There's lots of support built in for mobile devices. And when you look on the home page, you will see that the demo that is here, the sort of key demo with all of the source code provided as well. So hopefully we can connect into it. Okay, so here is a login screen. So do you want to create a mobile app in JavaScript with a login screen? How do you do that? Well, all the source code of this is available. So we sign in. You can see here there are 3 tabs. This is very typical business app. Map integration, a list with incidents. You can add new incidents. This is a real CRUD application that it actually works, and it's with different steps. So this, you can see this component here. This is a train component. Very typical component that you want in web apps, which is one of the jet components. So out of the box, you have this train component. So you create new incidents, and then this little menu in the front here, and yeah, it's a complete thing. And so, log in, log out, and all the features. Dashboard in the front, with graphs and charts. Okay. I think I've covered everything. You are now more or less not exactly experts yet, but you're very close, because that's really all there is all there is to say. Thank you very much for attending.